Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another book rant. Today, my voice is kind of hoarse because I've been getting back into Dota, and it can be frustrating. However, it is also Juneteenth, and so I want to honor one of my favorite black authors of late, and so I'm going to be discussing this book, A Master of Djinn, written by P. Djeli Clark. I still don't know how to pronounce that DJ sound, if it's jelly or yeah, yelly. I bought this book new at Page One Books in October of 2025 when I was visiting my new job for in processing at the start of the 2025 furlough. And all things considered, this book has been worth the price. I don't like paying modern new book prices. This one was $19. It looks here, cover art is by Stefan Martiner, cover design by Christine Fultzer. This book is relatively young. Copyright 2021. First Tor.com paperback edition 2022. This is by the author of The Dead Cattail Assassins, the author of this book, which I really enjoyed. I have the last chapter, the last segment of this kind of permanently bookmarked because it is really fun. I keep it bookmarked here because I really like the last segment of this book, like I said in that video. And I'm not certain if it's a patois or a pidgin, but two prominent characters in the climax of The Dead Cattail Assassins use that language. And knowing how Clark wrote in that book, I was intrigued by what I would find in this book. And what I found was a thoroughly enjoyable story. There's praise in here from Rebecca Rowanhorse, who is a local author, one who wrote Trail of Lightning and Storm of Locusts, a native author from New Mexico. And it also has praise from the author of City of Brass, which I haven't read yet, but I know that it's one of those that is highly recommended as well. So reading this one, I expected good writing, and what I got out of it was a mystery. Like a lot of other books, there's always some mystery going on. This one felt a bit more predictable than The Dead Cattail Assassins, and less predictable than a lot of other books that I've mentioned in the past, like The Five Broken Blades, where the plot twist or the gotcha moment comes very expectedly. Now, with A Master of Djinn, what you get is a good mystery involving fun characters and an intriguing setting, but the actual gotcha moment was predictable. And more than that, what kind of disappointed me about it was that the solution was also incredibly predictable. So, what I really liked about this book was the characters and the setting more than the actual writing and the plot. Which isn't to say that the writing and plot are bad, it's just that the characters are more interesting. Whereas in The Dead Cattail Assassins, I just feel like everything was really good and involved. So, A Master of Djinn features a Egypt from the turn of the 20th century that in 1912 there is one, it's urban fantasy, and in this setting a famous man named Al Jahis ended up bringing the Jinn back into the real human understanding of the world. It's kind of implied in some segments that they'd been around for a long time, but were not verifiable by humans. But this Al Jahiz is able to bring them out of hiding into the spotlight and kind of force an integrated situation. Djinn are powerful, and different levels of power have different names. In the early part of the book, the main character, who is an agent, a female agent in Cairo named Fatma, is on a mission and ends up trying to get the vessel, the container for a Merid, out from a young boy's hands. And Marids and Jinn and Ifriti are able to be restricted under a contract, but like twisting those contracts. And so she knows that most Marids are spiteful or aggressive towards humans, and the Merid has the power to kill every human in sight. But it also wants to be left alone. So she promises to take care of its vessel and make sure that it would never be bothered again if she offers something of value in exchange for the kid's life. And she words it in a way that leaves it possible that the kid could have a negative component to it. The Merid says the boy is going to die, and she bargains that he will die of old age. But one of the characters quickly notices that also means that if they're effectively immortal until old age, they might still be victim of a bedridden disease, something like polio, that would be a fate worse than death almost, to live for 80 years until he finally dies of old age. That he's not going to starve, he's not going to die of thirst, but he is going to possibly suffer before that old age. So it gets into really showing you that these magic entities are powerful, volatile, and dangerous. And Agent Fatma is part of the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. So it is her job to investigate supernatural crimes. And there's a crime involving a secret society, a bunch of British wealthy men in Egypt, or primarily it's one landed lord with a lot of influence and power, but also a lot of like Egypt mania. So a lot of the people in that society with him are just trying to win his favor, get his attention, and get his money. Where it really starts building up is when they introduce the other characters, including a new young woman, a partner for Agent Fatma, who is more liberal minded, kind of suffrage feminist kind of lady, very educated and capable of herself, but very new. And that leads Agent Fatma, who has been working by herself for most of this time, to kind of have doubts or treat her as something that needs to be coddled or kept away from danger. And the third character is Agent Fatma's lover. The lover is a woman named Siti, who was involved in the story that kind of led to this, a short story by Clark that led to this, called A Dead Djinn in Cairo, where they keep alluding to it in the book as well, where I guess an angel wanted to recreate the gate that Al Jahiz had used to merge worlds. And so Siti and Fatma were involved as partners in that, not officially partners, but like both were working towards the same goals and worked together to solve that mystery. But there was also an element of romantic entanglement. In one of the earlier chapters, we meet CT's grandma, and her grandmother says something along the lines of, "Do you have enough stories to keep CT entertained?" Which Fatma says, "I think your grandmother knows." And CT says, "I think she just like I'm good at hiding things. I don't think she recognizes what's going on." Obviously, there's some interpretation there that there's some acceptance or whatever. As it turns out, and this is a spoiler, so you can skip about 30 seconds if you don't want to hear it. Siti is also half Djinn, and her father stepped out, was flighty, and so she has some healing powers. She also has some ability to be controlled by the same kinds of things that control Jinn and Afriti and Marids. But from the world that those creatures come from is an even greater threat. And the plot is very based around trying to bring those threats to Earth because they are so powerful that if they can be controlled, they can do some serious damage. They give someone serious power. And it also involves a mystery of certain characters, informants, and everything that are affected by a curse. So not only is there this mystery going on, but part of the mystery involves figuring out the mechanics behind a particular curse that affects everyone. Because as it turns out, the Jinn have worked with angels or creatures that claim they are angels. It's uncertain about that. But they worked with those powerful entities to make it so that any devices that could control them are not known to the entire world. Anytime someone gets close, what was I talking about again? Something like that happens where every time someone gets close, could have sworn we were having a conversation just now. So they have to figure that out and then also figure out the meaning behind it. And if someone has managed to circumvent that curse, that magic that affects all humanity, and then all in all, it's a really good story. I really appreciate it. It's interesting, it's new, it's urban fantasy, but in a more occult fantasy kind of way. It feels weird to say this, but it feels like if magic is in a post 1950s setting, it's urban fantasy. And if it's pre 1950s, say 1850s to 1950, it's occult fantasy. Feels a bit weird to say that, but I think this falls in line more with that occult fantasy, kind of like, though it's kind of on the borderline of those two periods, even though I knew the end, is kind of more on the occult side of things than the urban fantasy, the more modern magic systems. And, this book just does its job really well, tells a good story, and is just interesting. So, my props to P. Djeli Clark. He makes some good stories, and I'm really happy to showcase him, especially today. Today is Juneteenth. When this video comes out, it's going to be the day after Juneteenth, but you know, if any weekend I'm going to honor and admire a black author, this is a good weekend for it. So, yeah, I liked this book and I think I got my money's worth out of it. So, hopefully, if you like that kind of fantasy as well, you will enjoy this too. So, yeah, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another book rant.